It's a beautiful day for a ride today. Not a cloud in the sky, temperature is good. But I am not riding anywhere. Yeah, I know. Ziggy, clean your garage. Okay, whatever. So, a week and a day ago, I went to watch the football game with my boy Bull in Washington, Louisiana. And upon leaving, I decided to cruise through the town of Washington so that I could get some good video for you guys. But I was in the middle of town, so I went to the north end of town and decided to make a U-turn in the campground parking lot. And when I got there, I turned in, started to do my U-turn, and I went down. I couldn't have been doing more than 3 miles an hour. Only damage to the bike is, I guess I knocked off the slider on the end of the handlebar. There should be one like this. But it's gone. And I did actually break my arm, and along with the broken arm I did bruise up my knee pretty bad. And I noticed a few days later that my whole calf area down to the ankle was swollen. Then a couple of days after that I noticed some bruising around the ankle, and I never experienced any pain at the ankle. I just remember that when I fell I did have to push my bike off of the ankle. And I mean, even though I was going so slow, it was quick. And when you have all this weight landing on one tiny point, which is the elbow, something's got to give. And that was my humerus near the shoulder. However, on the good side, my Joe Rocket Atomic motorcycle jacket totally protected my elbow. Had I invested in motorcycle pants, I may not have been injured at all on my knee, but I was wearing regular jeans and steel-toe ankle-high boots. So those areas weren't as protected as they could have been with actual motorcycle gear. So for the next couple of videos, what I'm going to do is take some previously gathered footage that I did when I was having mic problems, and I'll just narrate over those and give you guys an idea of some of the wonderful things around this area. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ziggy. Do not forget to subscribe so that you can get Ziggy with it. You know that's the only way to get Ziggy with it. Well, okay, it's not the only way. You can just watch my videos and you'll be Ziggy with it. But go ahead and subscribe anyway. As you saw in my opening, yes, I did manage to break my arm, and I'm completely embarrassed about it. But it could have been worse. And the thing that I'm most perturbed about is that I did not have the video on, so you don't get to see me crash. I'll try to do better next time, I promise. So the footage we're watching while I'm doing this narration is just leaving Karen Crow and going towards Sunset on Highway 182. And the reason I'm on Highway 182 is that my poor little Benelli barely does 60 miles an hour with me on it, and I do not want to clog up the interstate with that and be a hazard to other drivers. In fact, on this day it was so windy, I was lucky when I hit 55. Maybe you also noticed in my opening segment that I've been neglecting my shaving. I'll just take that as a head start on Novembeard, even though I have never participated. There's a first time for everything. Anyhow, enough gloomy stuff. I will now tell you more than you ever wanted to know about me. I was born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana. Upon completing high school in the same year that our wonderful country turned 200 years old, I went to college for one semester. I discovered that college was severely interfering with my drinking, so I joined the Marines. Over my nearly 10-year stint in the Marines, I managed to visit several foreign countries. I did a couple of tours in Okinawa, Japan, totaling just over 3 years. As a result, I speak more Japanese than I do Cajun. Even though I haven't been practicing for 30 years or so, I still remember quite a bit. And lately I've been watching Japanese TV series on my Amazon Prime and kind of catching some words here and there, but it's not like it was, and it's a reminder of how I was never really fluent at all. In addition to Japan, I spent a month in Norway and did a couple of med cruises. That is what we called it when we would jump aboard the Navy ships and they would transport us across the Atlantic Ocean into the Mediterranean Sea, and we would have operations with our allies in that area. So I was able to visit countries such as Spain, France, Italy, Turkey, Morocco, Egypt, and some others. Not all of it was liberty, but the liberty was nice. Upon leaving the Marines on Halloween Day 1986, I came back home to a recession. Now, I had no idea what a recession was. I had had a steady paycheck for the past 9 years and 9 months, and I thought it would just keep coming. I guess I was using my brother as my template, because when he got out of the Navy several years earlier, there were so many jobs being offered to him that he would just go to lunch and never go back to work and have a new job the next day. And I thought things were still going to be like that. The harsh reality of a recession, there were no jobs to be had. So I did different jobs for a few years, never making much money, and I finally landed in trucking. Trucking stuck with me for over 20 years. I spent the first few years gathering knowledge about the industry before buying my first truck. After buying my first truck, I spent a couple more years learning about the business side of the industry while being leased to other carriers. Then I went out on my own for about 7 years. It was a good run, but then I went back to being leased to somebody, and that was good for a few years, even though things were very slow. And then my atrial fibrillation kicked in. I guess I had been feeling the symptoms for over 20 years, but could never find the real cause. I would feel a fluttering in my chest, and the best definition I could find was that it was anxiety. And even though I didn't feel particularly anxious, it seemed to be the best fit. I finally enrolled in the VA and told the doctor about it, and he put me on a monitor for 24 hours and nothing showed on the monitor. So it was still undiagnosed until one day I'm out on the road and I go into full-fledged atrial fibrillation. I had to call an ambulance and everything. Spent a couple of days in the hospital and then began seeing my cardiologist at the Michael E. DeBakey VA Medical Center in Houston, Texas. First he tried a cardioversion to get my heart back on the right track. It did not work. At this point, he decided to insert a device into my chest called an ICD. I believe that stands for Implantable Cardioversion Defibrillator. What I didn't know was that this would immediately disqualify me from passing a DOT physical. Yes, you heard that correctly. The thing that is there to keep me alive also obliterated my livelihood. I decided to attempt to remain in trucking by contracting somebody to drive the truck for me. And that was good for a while, but the truck started breaking. And it broke a lot. And it broke hard. And I'm still in debt several $1,000s over that. After having a contractor in my truck for a couple of years and the truck breaking so often, it became clear that I needed to get out of the business. So I did. But this put me in a situation where I could no longer afford my house payments. So after coming to terms with the knowledge that I would have to sell the house, I also determined that I did not want to ever have a house payment again, and I hate paying rent. What that meant to me is that I would need to find some place that I could buy outright and attempt to live off the grid as much as possible. However, after spending such a large portion of my life being nomadic, I decided I wanted to be nomadic. And how to do that and make an impact at the same time? Well, I decided to get my 95 Z28 fixed up and pull a small trailer behind it. How's that for an impact? But after not being able to find the right deal on a trailer that would work, I decided to go the more practical route that people had suggested to me and get a larger trailer and pull it behind the pickup. So I started looking at race car trailers with living quarters on it. I don't need much room since it's just me, so that would be a way for me to bring my car with me and hopefully enough room for the bike. It didn't take long before I found out how many people are out there doing exactly that. Between the van life and RV life and nomadic videos on YouTube, I started educating myself. Continuing my research, I also ran across motovloggers. And I ran across motovloggers doing it with a Grom. Now, my Grom story is somewhat different. I first saw a Grom a few years ago and immediately fell in love with it. But I never actually did anything about getting one. So now that I was looking at this new lifestyle, I decided to do some more research. And I didn't want to get a Grom and be like everybody else, and I discovered the Razkull, R-A-Z-K-U-L-L, which is the same size as a Grom but looks more like a Ducati. And there are other differences that make it not as good as a Grom, but it's also basically half the price of a Grom. But I continued to research, and I stumbled across the Benelli TNT 135. Benelli? I thought Benelli no longer existed. Turns out they did, but they were not sending anything here to America. But now all of a sudden they're sending the TNT 135 here and maybe some other models later. And I love the looks of it. And as far as I know, nobody else is vlogging from a Benelli here in the States. There are vloggers in other countries that are doing it, but I could be the first here in the United States to do it. So here we are, my life in a nutshell. I still have to sell the house and buy a trailer and get the car running. But once I sell the house, I should have enough money to pay off my pickup, pay off the bills that I still owe from the broken truck, and hopefully begin my off-grid living experience. I'll be able to go to several different places and vlog from there. and hopefully keep you guys entertained. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you managed to make it all the way to the end, you really are special. Thank you.